Wishworld dropped at the weekend for Doctor Who, and I thought, let's do something a little bit different. Let's look at a quote unquote opposing view, an opposing review of what I thought of it. I've not read this particular review as of yet, so this is going to be a live reaction. I don't do this very often, so it'll be interesting to see what I come out with. So this one's going to be from Screen Rant. Before we get into that though, hello and welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Chat About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, switch on the notification bell so that you know I am releasing another video. Please do be sure to keep it nice and friendly in the chat. Let's carry on and take a look at this article from Screen Rant. This was written by Ben Gibbons. Doctor Who Season 15, Episode 7 review. The dystopian twist reveals more questions and I'm more excited about the finale than ever. That's good. And I would say that you are allowed to like this. This is one thing that I maintain throughout the entire last two series, and anything that is most likely to receive a negative review per se, you know what I mean. So I always maintain that because I think that's important to remember and acknowledge. So good, I'm glad you are excited. Doctor Who goes full dystopian in Wishworld. I would agree that it's quite dystopian, yes, and it's an epic penultimate episode for season 15 as the season nears its end, with showrunner Russell T Davies pulls together all the elements of Ncuti Gatwa's last two seasons in the titular role. And with so many moving parts, it would be easy for this 40-minute episode to be overwhelmed by the amount of ground it needs to cover, but it manages to deliver all the exposition and set up the finale needs ahead of its release next week. Okay, I must have been watching something completely different, because other than using the exposition at the beginning and at the end, the exposition in the middle wasn't really forthcoming with any particular type of information. There was a very big lack of action, and really we needed to see more in it. But interesting statement. Let's continue. After the Rani appeared at the conclusion of the Interstellar Song Contest, she travelled to collect the most important part of her plan, a newborn god with the ability to turn wishes into reality. Upon her return, Rani worked together with Conrad to reshape the world, and through their shared efforts, 2025 has become unrecognizable dystopia. Among this unfamiliar world, the Doctor and Belinda live out their days unaware of their true identities or the adventure that came before. Yes, and I think this just highlights a plot hole, in my opinion. You see, because we see Archie, Punjabi, Rani doing this. Oh, I guess it's supposed you can adhere it to Tammy White, me wibbly wobbly, but you see Archie's Rani going to collect this baby and taking it back, or what we assume to be taking it back to 2025, but yet we see the Anita Rani doing everything, collecting the Vindicator readings and all of that. So what I'm wondering is if the Lucky Day Rani that we see with Anita Dobson is already the bi-generated Rani of that. So it would explain that. But I'm just trying to fill in a plot hole. It's very gaping, and we really shouldn't be having to fill that in. But yeah, I would say it's pretty weak as water. It's common sense for seasons of Doctor Who to wrap up with a multi-story finale. When that happens, the adventure often appears to be split across the episodes into a 2 or 3 act structure. Wishworld is no different, as it is heavy on exposition and provides context that will lead to the major conclusion in next week's The Reality War. And while this means this story is less action-packed, there is plenty to get excited about. This is kind of a reverse switch. It's just made me think about this. Normally, RTD does a lot of chatty in the second part of his finale. This time it's switched around, so hopefully, with any luck, we'll get the action-packed stuff next time. So, is it something to get excited about? I don't know. This first part didn't really hype me up, so to speak, but we will have to see. With the return, the Rani, another classic Doctor Who character, this episode spends a lot of time with the character as she reveals her plans. This is handled well, pushing the narrative forward and creating a fleshed out world that redesigned to fit her purposes. However, there is plenty of mystery left for the finale to resolve itself, and despite several major characters finding each other and trying to find a way to break out of the new dystopian world, things go from bad to worse. I disagree. I think we should see the Rani doing more of this type of thing that she is doing, because she's a scientist. She's working on experiments. We need to see the experimental elements behind all of this during that long-winded exposition nothingness that we have in the middle. We need to see that because that is what she does, and we don't get to see it. We just get to see her walking around, listening to numbers, and just essentially waiting for the Doctor to turn up whilst setting a trap for him. That's not really what the Rani does. We need to see what she does from classic. Yeah. And yet, with this episode so focused on establishing the threat and upcoming story, it ends up feeling like an extended trailer with only a few big developments. So you have to acknowledge that it's not as good as you're making it out to be. Interesting. Despite this, it is great to see characters like Jonathan Gross Rogue return to help the Doctor break out of the brainwashing state he appears to be trapped in. Poppy's arrival as the Doctor and Belinda's daughter is intriguing, and the confirmation that Omega, the founder of the Time Lords, will join the fray makes for an enticing setup. Yes, except they missed the mark. They should have introduced Omega then. And I'm a little bit worried that introducing Omega into this story is because he can't really think what he wants to do with the Rani. And I'm talking about RTD. He's stumped. He can't really take her beyond what he's taking her to. I'm a little bit worried that's why he's bringing Omega back. And I also think it's the wrong decision to bring back two villains in Doctor Who that essentially have nothing to do with each other and putting them together. Rani doesn't really have any want for Omega as far as I could tell, so why the big change? That's why you've got to really pay it off. So I'm a little bit worried they're not going to do that. While the Doctor often finds himself travelling to far-off planets and distant times, it is an interesting twist to see the modern day transformed into a bizarre alternate reality. Yeah, listen to the natural history of fear. That is bizarre. This has happened a few times in the show's history, but credit to Davies and his team that the colourful style of the reinvented world is interesting and clever. You see, I would say that really you should avoid working in this type of story for TV. This is better done on audio, and it works in the natural history of fear. Carrying on, from the endless supply of shattering cups that dissuade people from doubting to the reimagined unit, it's exciting and eerie. Eerie is debatable. I would say that he would have needed to inject more of the fear factor into the dystopian part to make it more eerie. I would say I find Castrovalva a lot more eerie, and that's essentially augmented reality as well. However, there are odd elements that make very little sense, like the giant skeletal observers that march around the city. I would agree with that. They don't really make any sense whatsoever. As of yet, the reasons why the Rani needed to rebuild the world and how Conrad fits into the story, or how a magical baby from 160 years ago is a god of wishes, why Omega exists beneath London is this alternate reality. I don't really believe this is an alternate reality. I think this is built on Earth, this reality. I don't think they are away from Earth. This is on Earth. Are too much for the next episode to actually cover, as Doctor Who is prone to do. It feels like several of these details will be glossed over. Yeah, guaranteed. I agree with that. But as it stands, it's interesting, quirky, and fun seeing the Doctor as John, and how doubts are handled in this reality is a great start to the finale. Well, we can agree to disagree on that one. With this only serving as half the story, it is difficult to assess how well it establishes what's to come. I would agree with that. As a stand-alone story, it's lacking somewhat in terms of answers. Yes, because it's not a standalone story, is it? It's a part of a two-part story, which is why it's very difficult to judge it. However, the penultimate episode is still fun. It introduces a lot of moving parts, and the bright, colourful new reality is a wonderful setting ahead of the finale. That's especially true of the final scene. As all reality begins falling apart, Doctor Who's Wish World is another solid entry to the series with a lot of promise for what's ahead. I would say that I disagree. I don't know if it's going to create a lot of promise. It's really difficult to judge it though at this stage, because we do not have the second half of it. I guess we could judge it once the story is complete. I would say it's not the best setup I've ever seen. The Rani could be used in a much more effective way than what we have seen, and that's nothing to do with Archie or Anita. Their portrayals are absolutely fine. I've got no issue with that whatsoever. The payoff for this story is going to have to be massive in order to make this work, because you're bringing back two classic characters, and there's obviously going to be Susan as well. So we will have to wait and see. But I do disagree. It's not the best opener, I would say. I do disagree with that. Let me know what you think, whether or not you agree or disagree with this article. Chat about it, don't shout about it. Please keep it friendly in the comments, and I shall see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.